When we analyze the position of science in relation to cosmology, there seems to be no doubt about the assertion that physicists would have elaborated the Big Bang theory from cosmic radiation. This radiation, for being remotely tracked in order to obtain data, came to be called background. The dependence of science on light, acting as a source of information, is the same dependence valid for the sending space. That is, to communicate distant events to the observer on Earth, space would also depend on cosmic radiation. As light has limited speed, this communication would take time. For example, to astronomers, space would behave in the same way as an elastic band or a spring. As this would be the same behavior of light, as long as it performed its simple harmonic motion, it is clear that space and light would have merged, at least from our point of view, into a continuous whole. If you want to talk about space, you'll have to take into account the behavior of light. One can understand the position taken by astronomers, since the only tool we have to assess time and distances in space is cosmic radiation. Space will only bend if light bends, as it is the only tool available to indirectly assess the geometry of space. The mistakes that may exist in this way of evaluating events in space-time would not be mathematical. They would result from interpretive flaws, or would depend only on our points of view. If the universe had really expanded soon after the Big Bang, we wouldn't have reached the moment we are in now. The universe would have collapsed long ago. In any case, it would be the messenger from space that would be inducing us to a possible misinterpretation. Let's see this in detail. When speaking for space, cosmic radiation would generate uncertainty in the position or speed of light sources, as space would be outside the process. Any event involving space would have to await related communication by its messenger. When astronomers tell us that space and light would behave similarly to a spring, they would be considering that both would perform the same simple harmonic motion described in them as spring set. Then, when space stretched or curved, it would be entering the first phase of harmonic motion. If it contracted or relaxed, it would enter the second. The main characteristic of the expansionary phase of this virtual spring of space would be the increment of the elastic potential energy to the detriment of the kinetic energy. These energies would be complementary to each other, and their sum would make up the total energy of space-time. In the first phase of harmonic motion, the space would stretch in one direction, and the force would point in the opposite direction, doing negative work. So, if we were seeing the inflation of the universe happening in real time, we could not be living with the force of gravity in space-time, as it seems to accompany the continuous contraction of space. It's just that gravity and acceleration are confused in the same concept. The empire of the expansionary force would be dictated by anti-gravity, which we know to be a fictitious force. The internal features of spacetime are compatible only with the second phase of the simple harmonic motion of light. Extending this harmonic behavior to space, by similarity, we would have that it would always be contracting inside here, being followed by a constant fall of the potential energy. The spring of space would be at rest at infinity and would start to contract from there. If we considered that the universe would have been in continuous expansion in the post-Big Bang, space, when stretching, would do negative work, which would be accompanied by an increase in elastic potential energy. This would force us to think that the expansionary phase would have to be external to space-time, because, inside it, there would be a continuous drop in potential energy. Furthermore, by stretching unrecordably, space, described by cosmic radiation, would potentially be capable of generating inertia. This kind of fictitious force would prevent, for example, the planets from spiraling in their orbits and colliding with the Sun. With space acting from the outside to the inside of the visible universe, the generation of inertia would happen without the direct interference of the masses of stars and galaxies. This first phase of harmonic motion, applied by science to space as well, would create a tension between the Big Bang singularity and all the matter that had spread from there. Sooner or later, this matter would collapse on its starting point, with the collapse being managed by the secondary action of gravity. That is, space would continually contract in our present, accompanied by a constant drop in potential energy, because it would have been stretched before the Big Bang happened. These two phases of the same simple harmonic motion, applied to space, would exclude each other. As long as one of them was there, the other would disappear. Attributing to space the same harmonic behavior as light may have been the first serious misinterpretation of science, which would have nothing to do with mathematics.